Hello and welcome to another video. Today I wanted to take a look at, in my opinion, the best save swap in the single type cup, Samurott. Try and run a mass simulation where you give this Pokemon 4 or 5 Fury Cutters head start against the single type cup and it beats pretty much everything in the 1s and 2s. Just a few quick facts. It beats Shadow Mog in the 2 shields. It beats Meganium in the 1s and 2 shields if you land the move correctly. It has a lot of play even against the Dragon types. It beats Registeel and Cofagrigus in the 2s if you can get 4 Fury Cutters advantage. And people just don't really know what to do about it when you save swap it, so they always give it too much energy and they're not aware of how quick it is, so they always allow you to get to an extra charge move if you over farm a lot because they just can't keep track of the energy. It's also very good at forcing shields, which is really good for Meganium because Meganium performs very well in the zero shield scenario. So once the shields are gone with Samurott, Meganium just goes to town. I went with Cofagrigus as the lead. I don't think it's the best lead in the world right now because of all the Umbreons and doubles. 3 of my 5 losses came against the Umbreon leads. It's very tough to come back from, but it worked out pretty well and it is a good Pokemon for this meta. Overall, this team worked out very well. One thing that this team does struggle with is it doesn't really have any good responses to like a double or Vigoroth save swap. I would recommend against a double save swap, go up to a Dark Pulse and then land it to put it into a Frenzy Plant range and then swap into Meganium afterwards. Against the Vigoroth, let them get to a Bulldoze and also get off a Dark Pulse to put them into Frenzy Plant range once again and then bring in Meganium afterwards. Going into the first game, we lead into a Vigoroth. This is a good lead in the 1s and 2 shield scenario if the Vigoroth is not baiting, but Vigoroth don't tend to bait against the Cofagrigus. But Cofagrigus actually loses the 0 shields against Vigoroth, which surprised me quite a lot because as you can see, 2 Dark Pulses is not quite enough to take out the Vigoroth, whereas 2 Bulldozes is enough to take out Cofagrigus, and Vigoroth gets to Bulldozes after 9, 9 and then 8 for the third one, so they will be able to outpace to 2 before we get to 3 Dark Pulses. But I'm okay with letting Cofagrigus go down if it means I can get Samurott a good farm down, and this looks like a pretty good range for Samurott to farm the Vigoroth down. So I'm kind of hoping they're not baiting and just taking out my Cofagrigus so I can bring in Samurott and then farm them all the way down, come out with a lot of energy on Samurott. And what do they bring in? They bring in a Cofagrigus. As I said in the beginning, Samurott up this amount of energy should be able to take out Cofagrigus. It takes 5 turns worth of energy in the 1s and 3 turns worth of energy in the 2s in order to overcome this matchup, so we should have plenty energy to be able to take out this Cofagrigus, and they just let it go. They don't even get to move before we take it out, because they save 2 shield for Shadow Dragonair, and this is a problem. I'm expecting them to probably be afraid of some fast move pressure in the back, so they probably have to shield this, despite the fact that I only went for the Hydro Cannon, which is why I didn't want to go up to the Mega Horn. I didn't want to give them too much of an energy head start. If I counted correctly, they're at 23 Dragon Breath now, so they should be close to back, meaning they're getting close to back once again. If I counted correctly, I am not getting to a Frenzy Plant and an Earthquake before they get to 2 more Body Slams here, and 1 Body Slam is enough to take me out because it does about 33%, so I have to go for the Frenzy Plant if I want to get off 1 move with Meganium. It does big damage despite being resisted, and now they are back to back. I could let this go, maybe hope to Fury Cutter them down, but I want to get as much fast move damage off as possible, thinking that Meganium would be able to live enough to find Whip It Down. And it was very, very close. They would have come up with a move to take out Samurott if they're taking out Meganium there. But luckily, Meganium is a Dragonair counter confirmed. Next game, a bit of a nightmare lead into a double. Double does win against Cofagrigus in an all-even shield scenario without having to bait. So that's not ideal. We bring in Samurott. Samurott can win the 2 shields against double if you land a Mega Horn. But it is a bit of a risky play because it's a lot of energy to potentially waste if they shield it. So do go for the Hydro Cannon right before they get to another Body Slam, and then they go for it, and we of course have to shield at this point or let the Samurott go. But by shielding, and we can get to 2 more Hydro Cannons on this Cofagrigus, so they have to shield 1 of them, but they come out with so much energy. I'm thinking I'm very much behind in this game at this point. I have to try and make some risky plays, so I save the Samurott for a potential sack later, bring in Cofagrigus, hoping that they wouldn't go for the Shadow Ball, because a Dark Pulse is super effective, and some people think because it's super effective it does a lot of damage, but we can actually live it. And now because they're still switch locked, I can let my Cofagrigus go and then bring in Meganium immediately, take advantage of the fact that they're switch locked and farm them all the way down, come out with a lot of energy on Meganium, which actually puts me in a pretty good position. It takes 3 for the Body Slams on double, and they were dry, so we can go up to right before they get to another one, and they go for the Frenzy Plant to take out the double, and now it all comes down to what is in the back. It's a Clefable, and this is not ideal. because one Moonblast does about 56% damage. They could potentially bait with the Meteor Mash, but I just don't think they're going to do so. So I do decide to shield up the first move, but then I realize I'm not getting to 2 more Frenzy Plants before they get to another Moonblast, so my only win condition is to try and catch. So go up to right, one over, they get to the Moonblast, and then I go for the catch on Samurott, and we do catch it, and now we can Vine Whip down the Clefable afterwards, and that is a good game. Next game, lead into a Registeel. Good lead for Cofagrigus because you outpace with Cofagrigus and 2 moves is enough to take it out. We see a little bit of lag. Generally when you see lag, just assume it's only a visual because most of the time it is. Sometimes you do lose a few turns here or there, but assume that they are at the energy they're supposed to be at and that they are almost dry at this point. That's how I generally play it. They go for the Zap Cannon and get the debuff, and then they bring in the Dragonair, which is really not good for our backline. Dragonair is a bit of a problem for this team. We have to go for a move to either grab a shield or put them low enough to where Samurott can handle it. So we bring in the Samurott afterwards, and they got about 11 turns worth of energy in before we swapped into Samurott, so we should be able to get to the CMP here with the Hydro Cannon. I've been a little bit on fire in these games, not gonna lie. I'm feeling a little bit good about how I played here. And it's 12, then 12, and then 11 turns for the Body Slams. So they should be 11 turns away from the next one. So now it's gonna come down to, can we farm them down before they get to another one? Yes, we can. We come up with a lot of energy on Samurott. The Registeel should be almost dry, so if they bring it in, we can overfarm a lot before going for another move. So we overfarm a lot, hoping that this Hydro Cannon is enough to take them out. But it's not quite enough. We can go for another move, or we can catch the move on Cofagrigus, save all the energy on Samurott. And then afterwards, I don't really want to bring in my Samurott, because then they might be able to farm my Samurott down, come out with a lot of energy for Meganium. And also I'm assuming that Samurott is probably going to win a lot of CMPs in the back, so I'm probably going to be able to get off the energy regardless, because it wins CMP against a lot of things. And then they bring in a Blastoise. It takes 19 turns for the Blastoise to get to an Ice Beam, if they have Ice Beam, which is the equivalent of 9.5 Vine Whips, so they will be able to get to one before we get to another Frenzy Plant, but it doesn't take out Meganium, because Meganium is a very thick boy, and it can take a lot of moves. So we get to another Frenzy Plant. This is of course going to take out the Blastoise, and now we can farm down the Registeel, and that is a good game. Next game lead into a Shadow Dragonair. This is not ideal. Against the Shadow Dragonair, the Dragonair outpaces the Cofagrigus to every move. So I don't really want to shield the first one, because then they're just going to outpace to the second one as well. But according to the Sims, if you no shield the first one, you're not getting to 2 Dark Pulses before they farm you down. And I really don't want them to farm me down. So I get the shield with the Dark Pulse, and because of the Shadow Claws, we've put them into a range where 1 Hydro Cannon plus Fury Cutter could be enough to take out the Shadow Dragonair. Does about 43% with the Hydro Cannon, so we can go up to right before they get to another move with this Hydro Cannon. And now, does the opponent know that we're back to back? They do not. They shield it, and they let us get to another one. So now we can take out the Shadow Dragonair with Samurott. Not ideal to put Samurott into a range where they can farm me down. They bring in a Shadow Grimer, which is really not ideal either. I can't bring in Meganium here. I simply have to take out the Grimer with Cofagrigus. I have to expend the shield because the Poison Jabs are going to do too much damage to the Meganium. So I bring in the Cofagrigus. They go for a Mud Bomb after 6. So they should be 6 away from the next one. So we should be able to outpace. But then they do 2 more Poison Jabs, and then I think they try to catch an Umbreon, so I save the Shadow Ball for later, but they should be 4 away from the Mud Bomb, so I have to be very wary that I don't leave my Meganium in a range where it's switch locked, and where the Grimer can farm it down and come out with a move for my Cofagrigus. Because the Grimer does win CMP against Cofagrigus. They go for another foul play, 4-3, 4-3 for the foul plays for Umbreon. And then we can get to a Frenzy Plant with Meganium. Meganium does win the 1s and 2 shields against Umbreon, because the Vine Whips add up enough for 2 Frenzy Plants to be enough to take out. But in the 0 shields, the Umbreon does win, unfortunately. So the Frenzy Plant is not quite enough. Also, a Frenzy Plant and an Earthquake does the exact same amount of damage, so no point in throwing the Earthquake. We can bring in the Cofagrigus. They should be 3 away from the next move, but they bring in Grimer. These Poison Jabs are hurting a little bit, so we have to go for the Shadow Ball to take them out. Hope that it takes them out. It does take them out. The Umbreon is not quite at a move, so we can get to another Shadow Ball, a little bit unnecessarily on this Umbreon to take it out. And that is a very close game, but a good game nonetheless. Next game lead into a Shadow Mug, and this is where I make a bit of a mistake. They bring in a double. I should just go for the Dark Pulse before swapping into Meganium. One Frenzy Plant is not enough to take out this double in the Zero Shields. But if I had landed the Dark Pulse before swapping Meganium, I think it would have been a bit of a different story. Also, they decided to shield this Frenzy Plant because I think they really want a switch advantage. And then they get to back Body Slams. I could have maybe gone for the CMP here. It is very close, very IV dependent on who wins CMP, Meganium versus double. But I didn't think they would go for it immediately. I thought they might even try to farm me down. So yeah, I didn't go for it. Maybe a bit of a misplay. But now the double has a lot of health remaining and we can bring in the Samurott. They over farm. I'm not really sure why. Maybe they were thinking that they could live a move from Samurott, but it does about 44%. So we just take them out with all the energy as well. And that's pretty nice. But then they bring back in the Muk. And we can get to a Hydro Cannon. This does quite a lot of damage to the Muk. And then bring in Cofagrigus. If it's anything other than Umbreon, we're okay. But because it's Umbreon, giving up Switch was an absolute disaster. It is quite tough with this team to like overcome these double Vigoroth save swaps. But as I said in the beginning, the way I would play it, probably stay in, go for a Dark Pulse. You don't want to take a move from the double on Cofagrigus before leaving, but then just live with the fact that double has an energy advantage in Meganium and hope that you can still take it out with Meganium. And against the Vigoroth, just take the Bulldoze and then land a Dark Pulse to make sure the Vigoroth doesn't have a lot of energy going into the Meganium matchup. Because then you've landed the Dark Pulse to put them into a range where one Frenzy Plant is enough, but also the Vigoroth doesn't have a lot of energy. Here, the Umbreon is just going to farm down my Cofagrigus. It comes out with 2 moves. The Muk is also close to a move, so I'm a little bit screwed nonetheless. Yeah, there wasn't a lot I could do after giving up Switch. A bit of a mistake by me. Next game, lead into a Grimer, and once again, they swap in Vigoroth, and I make the same mistake. Yikes. I was thinking because Meganium does win the zeros, if you have a good Meganium, you can win the zeros and the ones against double if you don't give it too much of a head start. So my thinking was that if they swap in a normal type, I'm not expecting them to swap in a Vigoroth on Cofagrigus, so I want to swap in Meganium as quickly as possible onto the double, but then it's a Vigoroth, and this is not really all that good of a matchup for Meganium. I decided to let it go, hoping I can get to another Frenzy Plant, but I can't quite, and then I bring in Cofagrigus. If it's anything other than Umbreon, getting this farm down for as cheap as only taking a Bulldoze is absolutely huge and probably game winning. But if it's an Umbreon, this energy is just going nowhere. Moment of truth, it's not an Umbreon. It's a Shadow Ninetales, and these Shadow Balls are gonna do so much damage to it, so they have to start shielding. We can get off one, then get off another one. I think we even fast move denied them there, a little bit unfortunate. It does about 62%, so we grab both shields with Cofagrigus on the Ninetales, and now it's Samurott time. Go for the first Hydro Cannon against this Grimer. They do get to a move before we get to another Hydro Cannon, but once again, the opponents simply don't know exactly how fast the Samurott is, so we get to another Hydro Cannon to take out the Grimer. And then of course, the Ninetales cannot do anything against this Samurott, so we win that game. Next game, lead into a Haxorus. Good lead if it's running counter, and it looks like it is running counter as they swap out into a Shadow Muk. The way I play this, I really want to save my Cofagrigus for the Haxorus, because they only got 7 poison jabs advantage, and because the Shadow Claws have put them into a range where 1 Hydro Cannon is enough to take them out with the Fury Cutters, it takes the equivalent of 5 poison jabs for the Samurott to get to each Hydro Cannon, so I will be able to outpace 2 Hydro Cannons before they get to the 3 Thunder Punches they need to take out my Hydro Cannon, because I had a shield advantage. So we can bring in the Samurott, save the Cofagrigus for the Haxorus later. Then of course we have to start shielding the Samurott. It's 6, and then 5 for the Thunder Punches, so we should be able to overfarm a little bit and then go for the Hydro Cannon on CMP, which Samurott does win against this Muk. I want to try and see if I can get to a Mega Horn on this Haxorus, because it basically one-shots the Haxorus. I don't think I'm quite able to get to the Mega Horn, so we have to settle for this Hydro Cannon, but despite this being resisted, it still does so much damage to the Haxorus. But they come out with quite a bit of energy, enough energy to get to 2 Night Slashes if they have it, which would take out the Cofagrigus, but they don't run it. So they have to settle for Breaking Swipes. They can't get to 2, but Cofagrigus should be able to lift this. Now we can bank the Shadow Ball, because I don't want to throw it when it's debuffed. Then swap into Meganium, they swap into Registeel. My opponent goes for the Focus Blast. If they go for the Zap Cannon, they can actually overcome this, because if you get the attack drop, 1 Earthquake and a Frenzy Plant is not enough to take out Registeel. But if you go for the Focus Blast and don't get the attack drop, because you can't get the attack drop with Focus Blast, 1 Earthquake and a Frenzy Plant is enough, and Meganium wins every enemy shield scenario if Registeel goes for the Focus Blast. So yeah, they should have probably gone for the Zap Cannon. Next game, lead into Cofagrigus. I don't want to throw immediately because I'm a little bit afraid of the catch, but also I don't really like to give up a shield, which of course I have to give up a shield at this point. A Dark Pulse would do a lot of damage. And then they bring in a double. Once again, I should probably go for the Dark Pulse before swapping. But we bring in Meganium. I don't really like... I don't know, I kind of wanted to save the energy on Cofagrigus for something else because the Dark Pulse just doesn't do a lot of damage on this double. But it also just puts the game into jeopardy because if there's an Umbreon in the back, yeah, it's not ideal. Go for the CMP. Unfortunately, I lose it, but it's still fine because they were at the back-to-back. So I still wanted to get this Frenzy Plant off before they get to another Body Slam. I'm debating whether I want to take out the double here. Because I don't want to leave my Meganium in farm range, especially not because then they bring in their own Meganium. We banked the Frenzy Plant for later, bring in the Cofagrigus. I didn't want them to farm me all the way down, come out with a lot of energy. So I bank the energy, come out with a Shadow Ball or a Frenzy Plant, then go for the Shadow Ball, and the opponent miscounts. So we get to another Shadow Ball on the CMP, but my opponent wisely realizes I have no energy at this point and I'm switch locked. So they undercharge this Frenzy Plant. Very nice play by my opponent. And then they get in 3 more Vine Whips, meaning they're in 5 out of 6. So they're 6 Vine Whips away from the 2 Frenzy Plants because it's 6-6-5. So they will be able to outpace my Samurott here because it's 14 turns for the Samurott to get to a Mega Horn. And it's 12 turns for the Meganium to get to 2 Frenzy Plants. So I have to try and make a catch here. Go for the catch right before we get to the Mega Horn. Very nice. And now we have to be aware the Cofagrigus loaded up some energy beforehand, so it should be quite close to another move. So we go for the Hydro Cannon. We only give them 2 Shadow Claws before going for this Hydro Cannon. And now this does take out the Cofagrigus. Can we get to the Mega Horn on Meganium? Yes, we can. And this does so much damage to Meganium. I think it does about 80%. And of course, it's going to take out the Meganium. Samurott is a Meganium counter, confirmed. It actually does quite well against grass types. Especially if it's up energy. Next game, lead into Cofagrigus. I don't want to give my shield away, so this time I decide to go for the Dark Pulse immediately. And of course, my opponent decides to catch it an Umbreon. Nice catch. You can stay in and load back up again if you have a very good matchup in the back. But because I don't have a very good matchup in the back, I just want to swap in my Samurott immediately because I don't want to give the Umbreon too much of an energy head start. And then I go for the Mega Horn. Not really sure how much it would do in the moment. I find out later. It does about 54%. So it doesn't quite take out the Umbreon. So they will be able to get to another move, which we kind of have to shield in order to keep Samurott alive. The Cofagrigus also still has a move banked because they swapped out with a move earlier on. So this is not quite ideal. But we can get to this Hydro Cannon before they get to their move. And then once again, the opponent underestimating how quick Samurott is, so we can get to another Hydro Cannon on this Cofagrigus, bring them low, hope I can get to another one, but no, they farm me down, and this is really not good. Bring in the Meganium, hoping they would go for the Dark Pulse, expecting the Cofagrigus, and therefore going for the cheaper move, and they do go for the Dark Pulse, and now they can't get to another Shadow Ball, which I kind of don't really want to just let my Meganium go, so I do the shield it up, and what is in the back? It's a Charm Gramble. We can't get to a Frenzy Plant. After 3, it takes 8 for the Gramble to get to a move. So they're 15 turns from the next move. It takes 14 turns for the Cofagrigus to get to a Shadow Ball. I wasn't quite sure my Meganium would be able to get to another move before getting charmed down. So the safe play is to just bring in Cofagrigus, outpace the Gramble to the Shadow Ball, of course take it out, and then Shadow Claw down the Cofagrigus. And that is a good game. Oh, I forgot to take out a name here. Next game, lead into an Umbreon. Bring in Samurott, and they bring in Shadow Mug. Samurott wins the 2 shields here, without an energy advantage. There is nothing stopping the Samurott, because the Fury Cutters just add up so much that you will be able to win the 2 shields here. The only thing that could possibly stop the Samurott from winning the 2 shields is if they're running Acid Spray, but that would be ridiculous. They're running Acid Spray. That means that the Poison Jabs are going to do so much damage that we're not going to be able to get the 3 Hydro Cannons. So we're not going to win the 2 shields. Yay! God damn it! I was really hoping I could win this and flip switch advantage against the Shadow Mug. But no, they come out with a lot of energy as well. And of course, they're running Acid Spray, Dark Pulse. The perfect moveset for my specific team. I'm not better. You're better. Get for the Dark Pulse. Cofagrigus is basically useless at this point. This is also why I let the Dark Pulse go. Then bring in Meganium, hoping that it could sweep in the back up a shield, but then they just have a Shadow Grimer, and the Shadow Grimer outpaces to a Mud Bomb before we can get to the Earthquake. Meganium does win the Zero Shields against Shadow Grimer if you get 2 Vine Whips head start, because you outpace to the Sludge Bomb, but at this point Meganium's just so low. We might have a shield, but the Umbreon is just going to be able to get to 2 foul plays before we can even bring it anywhere near death. So yeah, I concede the match. That was the last battle for today, and overall I think this team was a lot of fun to use. It was also pretty good, but not amazing. I did go 10-5 with it, but I did also have to pull out some really cool moves in order to win a lot of these games. Cofagrigus is a bit of a liability, especially on the lead, because of the amount of Umbreon and double there are in the lead. Meganium also a bit of a liability because of the amount of poison, fire and dragon, but it does so well in the Zero Shield scenario, especially if you can get a little bit of energy head start on it. Samurott is genuinely amazing. I would definitely recommend giving it a go if you already have one with Hydro Cannon. If you don't have one with Hydro Cannon, be a little bit more hesitant maybe. It's definitely not the #1 priority if you don't have a lot of elite TMs. It suits my playing style incredibly well and I love using it, but it might not suit your playing style as well. Other than that, fun fact of the day, Meganium can get a breakpoint that allows it to beat the double in the 2 shield scenario if you swap fast enough. If you only give it 1 double kicks advantage, you can overcome the double if you have either a little bit of attack on Meganium or if the double is not ideal IVs, and that way you can keep alignment in some of these situations, which I failed to do. Other than that, if you like this video or feel like you learned something, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.